First question. How do you decide which horses you would start off working in canter versus the trot?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think as a rider, normally almost 100% I start to trot my horses when in the warming up. I always start with a lower phase. I first walk, then trot, and then canter. But then we are talking about long neck and like this. Almost all horses I start, because that's more slowly and more like this. But after the warming up, I have a feeling that some horses are coming into the trot work in a more natural way, with energy and impulsion, and if you start to canter, if you feel that if I start to canter the work, the trot is coming more from himself. If I start with the trot work, I have to press it to this trot a little bit more. And we don't like that really. I mean, of course you have to put pressure on the horse sometimes. But if you have the feeling that everything comes out from the trot much easier, if I do some canter work first, then I prefer to start with the canter work. And easy has nothing to do that I don't like you to work the horse. Of course we have to work. We have to be sweating sometimes, you know. This is the way it is, it's sport. But if you can feel that this canter work is making the horse much better, much softer in the trot, and much more coming from the beginning, then I prefer to do that. Are there more questions?
Yes. Why do you raise your inside hand in the canter pirouette?
That's a good question, because I did it specially for you to see it. Because when you're turning a horse, when you have the horse Tanya's horse, he knows about pirouettes. Maybe he never did it really, that collection, that on the hind legs, but he knows what it is. And when a horse knows what it is, and they know a little bit about it, when you start and you are in the pirouette, and you start to turn, the hand, inside hand, the horse has to follow the inside hand around, because it's the shoulder goes around the hind legs. The hind legs is just collecting and like this, going around. The hind legs are not moving to the right, or the hind legs, the moving part in the pirouette is the front, the shoulders. So the horse must be able to follow the hand. And after a few steps with him here, I could really, and he have to have a little bit air for the outside to be bended. If you're too stiff on the outside hand, then you're stopping the whole movement up. We want the shoulder to go around. Through? We don't want the shoulder to... Okay, if you have a horse that is turning too quick, then maybe it's another story. But he's not turning too quick. He was really up in the air, you know, really step by step. Then it's more important to have him the contact in the inside hand, and that he's following you around on the inside hand. And then we also want the whole shoulder to come up. And that's why I took it a little bit up and patting him on the outside. I've given a little bit release on the outside to get more, so he can bend the neck. And he was following my hand very, very, very good, and coming up with it in the shoulder around the. So it's a little bit like, it's the same when you're turning into the circle. You want to have the contact with both hands, but you want the horse to follow your signals with your inside hand to start the circle. I mean, if you don't have anything in your inside hand, then the horse normally overbending himself and going out with the shoulder. And then you really have to straight the horse up with the outside. But we want the horse to follow your inside hand to the direction of the movement. That's why.
Next question. When you're asking the horse to be quicker, are you asking for greater speed?
Again, that's the... If I said quicker, is not more ground covering, not longer steps. It's more activity. And in one way, you can say speed. I don't know speed in English. Speed in English is, I think, if you're driving faster with a car, then you have higher speed. So I don't mean faster. I mean faster, yes, in the leg, but not more forward, like ground covering. I think these things is very important to know, you know. When we have situations where we want to have more ground covering, for example, when we do extensions, extended canter, extended trot, we want the horse carrying more ground. But when we want to have more energy for before we go into the piaffe, or more energy in the passage, or if we want to have more energy in the steps, in the canter for the changes, normally it's not longer steps. Normally it's more like uphill active steps. That's why we have to work with that. So it's not higher speed in that way. But speed, if you see a horse doing this, it looks like it's higher speed, but this is more activity. And in the pirouettes, you can see that it's not looking speedy when the horse are doing really good pirouettes, because they are very, very balanced. It almost looks slowly, but if you look at the hind legs, it's not slowly. It's slowly like this. Bam, bam, bam. But the hind legs, they are quick. Yeah? The hind legs is like that. Otherwise, they cannot do it in a small spot like this. If the hind legs is like this, you know, really big, then it's really difficult to make a small pirouette. And to get a really high point, you have to be in the spot. But when I say small steps, it's not like this, these small steps. Small steps can be that they are coming through, they have to go through with the hind legs. But small steps comparing to the front leg and the hind legs. That you could see when we were working on a circle.
When a horse is overly sensitive to the whip, what do you advise on ways to get him to accept the whip as an aid, not as a punishment?
Yeah. First, I think if there could be a few reasons to a horse is oversensitive for a whip. Reason number one, bad experience. Somebody was hitting the horse a lot. And they are, like I said, they don't see the big picture of the horse, but they never forget. And the really difficult thing with horses is that they never forget bad things as well. So if they have a really bad experience from the whip, that can stay on for a long, long time. Maybe it could be good if the reason is, if you have a feeling that the reason is bad experience of the whip, I think you have to get the horse used to the whip. Kira said sometimes when she was working the horse by hand, and we are helping the horse to understand that they should lift the leg, and some horses are like this. Then she first patting the horse with the whip, you know, like this, over the whole body. Patting the horse with the whip. And then do a little bit like this, and then only like touching the horse on the leg. And then when the horse take up the leg like this, reward very much. And after a while, they can stay like this. And if a horse can feel a fly, you know a fly? Sometimes they do this. They do this, they feel a fly. If they can feel a fly, you don't need to do this with the whip. Then you can touch the horse and then you give a reward. After a while, the whip is okay. But you can have horses that is really, really sensitive anyway for the whip. Then I used to, and then you can, why use a whip? Yeah, we want to have the whip as an aid. Okay, if the legs, normally horses that is really sensitive from the nature for the whip. If they are sensitive for the nature for the whip, normally they are also very sensitive for the leg. And maybe you don't need a whip. We are very, very seldom with whip because he's very sensitive for the leg. So, but if you feel that, okay, but sometimes it's good for me to just dip, dip, to get the canter a little bit more jumpy, then you can have a shorter whip. And you can whip the horse a little bit like I did on him. Not on the horse. A little bit like only the sound. On your leg, because if you have a hard like this, it's not hurting. Then you can just do the sound a little bit with a shorter whip. Or on the saddle blanket. Dip, dip, just to get the sound and the horse is reacting a little bit. That could be one example to do it. But if they're really afraid, you have to show them that the whip is not punishment. The whip is only like a little bit waking up. Okay?
Okay, and the final question. How do you introduce the double bridle to a young horse?
I never put a double bridle on a young horse before I can feel that I really have a good connection with a normal bridle. And when I say good connection, it's nothing to do with nothing in the hand. Almost the opposite. Good connection. So I have a connection. You have to have a connection in your hand. Not strong, but the horse has to accept the hand and the bit that we are keeping the connection with the mouth all the time. But it could be very light connection. But when you can feel we're on a normal bridle, that this is okay. The horse is maybe 6 years old, and we know we are starting to come to the point after a while where we have to compete with double bridle. And I have a nice feeling in my hand. Then I put it on. Maybe the first week I'm not doing any difficult exercise, only easy-going work. Walk, trot, canter, and only riding on the bridle, not the curb. Yeah, not the curb. And the curb really, really light. Also very light. Not a very long here, very baby curve. And not using it so much in the beginning. And then more groundwork, more walk, trot, and canter. Not a lot of the things that the horse can be tense or something like that. And then after a while, when the horse feeling and taking the bit good, and you can feel that you can take a little bit in the curb as well without the horse overreacting, then step by step so I use it then every day for a while, but in an easy way. Not 1 day the curb or then 3 days the normal bridle, because we want the horse to get used to it. And then the horses are very much to get used to things by repeating things. That's why I do like that.